Choice-based gaming has been around for years, and one of the pioneers of the genre was Telltale Games. Starting out as a small indie studio making simple point-and-click adventure games, had the opportunity to make games based on existing IP like Jurassic Park and Back to the Future. Then, they were presented with Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead comics, and because the Walking Dead show and other zombie media were at its peak at this point, it took off. They had done choice-based games before, but the setting of a zombie apocalypse fit the formula. Essentially having the player choose what the main character says and does has effects on the narrative and what other characters think of you, with some quick time events sprinkled in for tension. That part about having effects on the narrative isn't entirely true, but it'll be relevant later on. The game ended up being a smash hit, one of the highest selling games of 2012 and winning a bunch of awards. For good reason. It was a well written and emotional story with likable characters, and this put them on the map. Now they had the IP for a bunch of heavy hitters, and they just started pumping games out. Batman, Guardians of the Galaxy, Game of Thrones, and Minecraft, then made 3 more seasons of The Walking Dead and a spin-off game based on Michonne. Over time, the quality of these games declined, with exceptions like The Wolf Among Us. Internally, the company was failing and getting bigger in size. Crucial writers and developers from the early days of Telltale left and started making their own games. This is because the CEO of the company got jealous of their praise and started shooting down ideas and micromanaging a bunch of projects. Approximately 275 employees ended up being laid off, and then Telltale was hit with a lawsuit from those same employees, and the company filed for bankruptcy in 2018. Why am I giving this history lesson? Because several ex-employees of Telltale founded Adhoc Studio, who recently put out a new game called Dispatch. It's taken the world by storm recently. By the time this video is out, probably not so much, but it's relevant as of writing this. It's been praised by critics and has been a huge success for the company. And despite what the title suggests, the game is good, just disappointing. You play as Robert Robertson III.
The third? 3 times this happened?
Robert is a superhero called Mecha Man, and after getting beat up by the guy that killed his dad, his suit is blown up and he loses the Astro Pulse, which is required to power it. He gets offered to become a superhero dispatcher, accepts, and you have to dispatch ex-villains across LA to help people. I've played through the game 4 times now, going through different dialogue choices to get the full coverage of the game, and a game where choices matter, huh?
They don't.
We'll get to that stuff a bit later. First, let's meet the main players. Robert inherited the Mecha Man suit from his father after he died fighting Shroud. He tries to go after Shroud to avenge him, and things go terribly wrong. And with his suit being beyond repair and having no money, his crime fighting days are seemingly over. Blonde Blazer offers him a job as team leader and dispatcher for a team of villains turned heroes that have been straying down the wrong path. In return, SDM will help get his suit in working order and get him back to being Mecha Man. Voiced by Aaron Paul, who does a superb job as always.
You wanna cook crystal meth?
Robert is a super interesting character. He comes from a family of heroes. First his grandfather, then his father, and now Robert is Mecha Man after the previous generations died in the suit. His father was absent, but he idolized him and started to put everyone else's needs above his own. Since Mecha Man was already an established hero, he always lived in his father's shadow. He made his entire identity Mecha Man. So what happens when that's stripped away? That's where we play as him, on his search for purpose. So how's the dispatching in the game? It is called Dispatch, after all. The main gameplay loop is sending your team on various missions from distress calls you get, and requirements on the right to help you decide who would be best to send. The chart is split into 5 categories: attack, vigor, mobility, charisma, and intelligence. After the job is done, you can see how well they did by looking at the coverage you get in those areas. Every hero also has unique abilities. Sonar turns into a bat, drastically changing his attributes. Invisigal being sent solo results in faster travel and completion time. Then there's actual useful ones, like Flambe getting +1 combat and mobility after every success, which can stack. Malevola heals the hero in the slot next to her, and Prism can duplicate anyone in the slot to her left, meaning you get double the coverage. Then there's some characters with major debuffs, like Phenomenon, who has great stats but gets depressed and starts to cry every so often, making him useless for 45 seconds. There's team synergies like Coop and Punch Up that increase mission success rates, and then there's brief hacking puzzles that are honestly pretty easy most of the time. The gameplay is pretty fun. It doesn't usually get boring or uninteresting because it does take a bit of brain power to pull off. Like if you send too many heroes to one spot and you're left with nobody, 3 other missions could pop up and then you're cooked. And when they do get tedious, you have those hacking levels to break up the pacing a bit. Honestly, a separate game mode with just endless missions would go hard. More on the characters. Robert was initially recommended by a former hero called Trackstar, who used to watch over him when his father was out working. Now going by Chase, he has the power of super speed, and before he could find out that every time he used his powers he aged 50 times faster than the normal person, it was already too late. Which is super dark, but he's cool and swears a lot.
Shit, fucker, shit, fuck is bullshit, fucking shit, fucking ass dickhead, fucking shit, fuck off.
Royd's a juiced up mechanic working on fixing Robert's suit. He's also kinda gross. Then we have the actual members of the team that you're dispatching. Flambe's the fire guy who Robert locked up in his time as Mecha Man. Prism can manipulate light rays and make holograms of people. Punch Up is Jacksepticeye.
Oh yeah. Oh. No, it's not what it is.
Sonar is Moist Critical.
Terrorists have infiltrated a local burger.
Malevola is a 6'6" demon. Coop's a former assassin that can fly. Golem's a pile of sentient mud. Waterboy's Waterboy. Phenomemon's an alien from space who you'd think would be evil, but no, he's just depressed after getting dumped. And the final member is Invisigal. I'm not a fan. See, there's two routes you can go down in the game. You can choose to romance Blonde Blazer or Vizzy. The game at its core is about redemption. You're trying to rehabilitate these people into becoming functioning members of society. And Invisigal seems to be the most far removed from the path of a hero, so it would make sense for her to be the main focus of a narrative like this. But there is a clear bias going on from the devs, and that favoritism bends the game away from your choices matter into pick the dev's favorite or get punished. The wet dream opener in episode 4, the guilt-coded animations, the camera lingering on her, they all telegraph the right pick. Meanwhile, Blazer is consistent, adult, thematically aligned with Robert, and starved of screen time. Decline Blazer, she vanishes from that episode. Decline Invisigal, the game lingers on a disappointment and tries to make you feel bad when it's clearly the worst choice of the two. If you pick Blazer, you have to watch Vizzy alone in the theater, while if you do pick Invisigal, Blazer just shoots you a text and that's that. This happens again at the housewarming party. If you picked Blazer, the game focuses on Vizzy's clear disappointment in the background. If you pick Invisigal, Blazer couldn't give two shits. The devs even acknowledged how unbalanced it was. I could have done a better job to push things a little bit towards Blazer. They were staring at Invisigal and getting a text from Blazer, so it's not really balanced, you know? Blazer is stable, self-aware, and mirrors Robert's post-Mecha Man arc about identity. Two mentors with self-knowledge make healthier partners than a mentor-mentee entanglement. If you choose the Blazer route, she reveals her identity. Gives you access to info that you would find out eventually if you didn't way earlier, with her amulet and how her powers work, but it makes the story a lot more coherent. She supports Robert in the ICU with Chase and models growth without needing him as a crutch. Vizzy needs mentorship, not romance. Mixing the roles corrupts both arcs. When the good/bad ending rests on did you fix her, the story punishes balanced leadership and makes Robert's success conditional on constant, perfect support. I don't think Invisigal is a poorly written character, but the execution of the choices and her role in the story could have been handled way better. Speaking of choices, I wasn't expecting Detroit become human levels of branching paths and consequences, but like, you marketed this game as your choices matter, and it's super misleading. Your first big decision in the game would be the option to either cut Coop or Sonar in episode 3. You can send these guys out as much as possible, get as many successful missions with them as you want, and they will still end up at the bottom of the leaderboard to get cut. Like, you'd think the dispatching part of the game would have some type of effect on the game called dispatch. QTEs you'd think would be skill checks, but misses still have near identical outcomes. If you set your controller down and fail every QuickTime event, nothing changes. Maybe you take an extra punch, but it has the same outcome as if you had actually engaged in it. Hell, you have the option to just turn them off. In episode 6, you have to complete a few hacking puzzles for Invisigal while she tries to retrieve the Astropulse on a boat. These are timed events, so I thought I'd let them run and fail them on purpose. She figures it out anyway. Sick. Okay, fair, they can't animate an infinite number of outcomes, especially because the animation is super high quality. Then don't sell me a game with consequences. What it's really doing is tracking your mentorship of Invisigal. You have all these characters and your single point of failure is tied to one person. The ending is entirely dictated by how you treat Vizzy. You can build strong team outcomes and that still won't offset a low mentorship counter. Push the counter high enough, you get the heroic ending. Miss it, Invisigal turns down the path of villainy and the game blames your leadership regardless of your broader success. I don't have a problem with a linear narrative. As I've said before, it's still a good story. The problem is advertising impact while hiding an invisible scoreboard. If the game said shape Robert's mentorship of Invisigal and shape the game around that, expectations would align. Instead, we're told our decisions shape the story. Originally, the game was supposed to be a TV show, so it's like they kept the linear narrative of the show and then the interactivity got thrown in as an afterthought. It's a great game. Great acting, animation, characters, writing, everything is pretty good. Just own it for what it is. It tells you choices matter, then grades what vibes you gave off at the end, like okay. Anyway, as of writing, the game has sold over 3 million copies in a little over 2 months, so a season 2 is probably on the way, and there's plenty you could do with the characters, so I'm optimistic about the future. So, in closing, Dispatch is good, just a little disappointing. And no, we are not talking about how I haven't posted in a year. I don't answer questions.
I'm a bitch, my name's Robert, such a bitch whose name is Robert. I'm a bitch, yeah, I'm a bitch, I'm such a fucking bitch. I have no hopes, I have no dreams.